Happening now on Grid Tonight, Austin Hill got suspended for crashing Aric Almirola at Indianapolis. Could this serve as a wake-up call for the RCR driver? Denny Hamlin signed a contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. How much longer can he continue to compete at an elite level? Truck Series regular Stewart Friesen was injured in a dirt race in his home country of Canada. What's the latest on his condition? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert, and for some reason that is playing again, so I will turn that off. Yeah, but as I was saying, welcome to our weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert. With me are Joshua Bush from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and our fearless leader, been a long time, Joe Samaniego. Happy to have you back on, and we encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat. Support us through Super Chat and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening. We got nothing but NASCAR this week.
Yep, it's a NASCAR heavy show. So, you go and take some breathers. Joe, nice to see you as well. Good evening to you as well. And Matt, nice to see you again as well. Nice to see you as well that you're hopefully fully recovered after being a bit up and down the last couple of weeks. And hope you're ready for some NASCAR chat. By the way, I must say apologize after keeping him 2 hours last week. We won't be doing that this week. Don't worry. So, following a controversial wreck during last Saturday's NASCAR Xfinity Series race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Austin Hill was suspended for this weekend's race at Iowa Speedway. Now, in the closing laps at the Brickyard, Aric Almirola gave Hill a nudge on the exit of Turn 2. The number 21 Chevrolet got sideways and made a very impressive save. But as they raced through the short chute, Hill made a hard left turn and right rear hooked Almirola hard into the outside wall in Turn 4. Now, with 8 laps to go, NASCAR decided to hold Hill for 5 laps due to rough driving. And when Hill was told about the penalty on the radio, he exploded in anger and told NASCAR to go F themselves, which obviously didn't help his case. Now, Hill left the track without comment, but his owner, Richard Childress, had a lot to say. Now, when Childress was asked if Hill should be suspended for his actions on Almirola, he said no, and brought up how Austin Cindric right rear hooked his grandson, Ty Dillon, at COTA and escaped suspension. Now, Childress added, it depends on who you are, and accused NASCAR of targeting his organization because they are a so-called blue-collar team. Now, meanwhile, after the wreck, Almirola talked to the CW and believed the wreck was intentional, bringing up his wreck at Kansas years ago that broke his back and how the hard impact caused by Hill felt similar. Now, NASCAR agreed with Almirola as they decided to suspend Hill for one race and take away all 21 of his playoff points. Under the new rule for this year, Hill will start the playoffs with 0 points, and he won't be eligible to earn additional playoff points for the remainder of the regular season. On NASCAR's Hauler Talk podcast, Senior Director of Racing Communications, Amanda Ellis, said that NASCAR had multiple camera angles to determine very confidently that Hill deliberately wrecked Almirola on purpose. They also view right rear hooks differently when you compare getting wrecked on a slower track, like a road course, versus a high-speed oval like Indianapolis. Link to this podcast in the video description below. And photo taken by James Gilbert from Getty Images. Matt, starting with you on this one, did NASCAR make the right call to suspend Austin Hill?
1000% yes. Good evening, everyone. They don't need multiple camera angles. The long shot from Turn 4 looking back into the faces of the drivers that the CW had over the weekend was all you needed to see from a guy that's done this stuff before, as we're going to get to. And he got away with it then, and this time he hasn't got it. No, I'll stop doing that. He makes the say. They have the banging in Turn 3. He makes the catch, and then he just turns left and ruins Aric Almirola's Camry, and he hit the wall, a unsafe for barriered piece of concrete wall in between turns 3 and 4 down there, very, very hard indeed. And as you mentioned, Josh, he's was very similar to that horrendous crash he had. Tick this one off your bingo card with Danica Patrick all those years ago at Kansas. So yeah, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason really for it, apart from, as we saw a little bit last year, and you're going to get to, I'm sure, when we get further on in this segment, but had a couple of run-ins with a few people last year, naming the SVG. And the thing with Austin Hill is, if he is even breathed on, it seems, by any other driver, he does like to give it back, and this time it's come and bit him back. If you rewind to March, when we had the discussion on this show about Austin Cindric's penalty from COTA, I think I do remember I was the one that said this is going to come back and bite someone badly, because Cindric did not get suspended for that, and there was very grey area about, because it was on a road course and it was in a slow part of the track, and etc. And obviously that was going to get brought up, and it has. So what surprise? None on that one. But yeah, Austin Hill sat down for Iowa this week, and frankly deserves it for very, very reckless driving indeed, Joe.
Very reckless driving, and overall, slam dunk, this is the right call to do. There's just no way at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a fast 2.5 mile oval, where you don't have sweeping corners. You have these nearly 90-degree corners. Left-hand turn, straightaway, left-hand turn, then your long front or back stretch. This was hard racing, and he crossed the line. And it's about time NASCAR said, we got to put the law down on Austin Hill. He is suspended for a race. Hopefully this sends a message to everyone that this is just unacceptable. And what I think is the unfortunate part was the fact that after this occurred on Saturday, the big buzz around social media, around folks, even on Grid Encore, should NASCAR make the suspension? This shouldn't even be a debate. It should have been just straightforward. Everyone knows he's going to be parked. He's going to be out. This is just one of those deals going back to that COTA incident where, oh, it was a slower corner, there was this factor, that factor. No, it should just be, you do a hook like this, you're getting parked. You are going to get suspended. The fact that he lost his 21 playoff points, that's going to send a big message when he gets to the playoffs. What he did at Daytona, what he's done at the drafting tracks all season long, nothing to show, because he broke this rule. He did the right hook. He is going to be at the bottom of the standards. I think this is, while I would like to see maybe a 2-race suspension, I would say overall NASCAR made the right call, and hopefully people realize that, hey, you're risking your championship if you do such a move.
Yeah, I think everybody was expecting a 2-race ban. The fact it's just one was a surprise, but I agree with what you've both said as well about the matter. I suppose the loss of points with the new rule coming in kind of makes it the best of all situations, doesn't it? Now, despite Richard Childress being all fired up after the wreck, RCR decided not to appeal the penalty and have Austin Dillon drive Hill's number 21 Chevrolet in the Xfinity race at Iowa. Now, this morning, NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Competition, Elton Sawyer, went on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio to add more context to the conversation. Now, Sawyer said it's NASCAR's job to keep law and order on the track, and they talked to both drivers involved to get each side of the story and looked at all available data. Now, once they had all the information they needed, a 1-race suspension seemed like the correct punishment. However, this isn't the first time that Hill has been involved in controversy, as fans and other drivers alike aren't really a big fan of how he races and carries himself. Back in the spring, following that chaotic Xfinity Series race at Martinsville, NASCAR held a meeting with all the drivers to discuss on-track etiquette, and Hill got up in front of the room to speak to his fellow competitors. Hill reportedly said that he wanted to step up as a leader and mentor the younger drivers. Dale Earnhardt Jr. responded to this months ago on X and said that the thought of Hill being a mentor was the best laugh he had all week long. Makes me laugh as well just thinking about it. Hill has this reputation of being a big, tough guy who's not afraid to rough you up on the track, and when you do it back to him, he's got a problem with it. Now, as a 31-year-old from Georgia, Hill still has ambitions of making it to the Cup Series someday. He has 3 more Cup races this year on his schedule in the number 33 Chevrolet at Daytona, Bristol, and Talladega. He got a top 10 on the streets of Chicago earlier this year. But when you pull moves like he did on Almirola last Saturday, Cup Series regulars take notice of this, and they'll remember the next time Hill joins them on Sundays. Now, on his Actions Detrimental podcast, Denny Hamlin tried hard to give Hill the benefit of the doubt, saying maybe the wheel hadn't spun all the way back around yet, and once it did, that caused him to jerk it hard to the left. Hamlin didn't want to believe that a driver could be stupid enough to intentionally wreck someone at a high-speed oval like Indianapolis. But now that it's confirmed it was a deliberate wreck, it'll be interesting to see how Hill handles this move going forward with a week on the couch. Now, Joe, coming back to you after this one. Josh approached my screen, I can't get away from him. Yeah, we were just in a planning meeting before this as well. So it's sort of, we've got through the end of August and the end of September with all the schedules as well. Austin Hill got the penalty deserved. I'm happy with it, says Adam as well. And behind the mic, hello to Matthew Owens as well. I had enough of the things Richard Childress said 15 years ago. Kindly shut up and give me a break on NASCAR targeting them and this blue collar garbage. Yeah, I think during the commentary as well, when we found out, I think our colleague as well, Jack, said how there hadn't been a blue collar team in about 30 years. So it's quite a funny little anecdote to throw in there. But Joe, coming to you quickly on this one, does Hill need to do some serious soul searching during his week away from the track, and should he be concerned about how this whole situation has kind of made him look to the rest of the public?
Easily, this has to be a defining moment in his career as a professional stock car driver. I've always said, when you're at the top level of motorsports, whether that's NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, and we're counting too the Xfinity Series, Formula 2, Formula 3, Moto 2. When you get to that level, you put in a lot of work. You've had a lot of folks sacrifice funding, their time, putting faith into you to get to that top level. When you wear that fire suit, and it's not just a blank fire suit, but you have the corporations that are sponsoring you, the logos of the team, and the employees that are working to make you a winner, you are held to that higher standard. You represent them. Austin Hill doing this was such a garbage move. I am tired, and we saw this last year with Austin Dillon when he did what he did at Richmond and saying, I saw red. You're a professional athlete. You're a professional race car driver. This isn't an amateur thing where you just lose your temper, see red, and make such a move. For Austin Hill to do this at such a racetrack where you got the high speeds, the history of, we've seen fatal accidents at this track, at other events, but still, we know that not all the complete track is surrounded by safe barriers. There's a lot of concrete walls all around Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He really needs to realize how big of a privilege he has driving these cars. When he's away and he's seen somebody else drive his car, that better be a defining moment for him to realize, okay, I got to wisen up. Because with his actions, nobody's going to take him seriously as a Cup Series driver. The fact that Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s comment of, that was the best joke I've heard, you being a role model, that shows nobody could take him seriously when he says something like that. If anything, he became an example of what not to do. If the sponsors are tired of Austin Hill, if they get to a point it's like, we don't want to sponsor him, he's going to get dropped for another driver coming up to Xfinity Series, whether it's the Truck Series, ARCA, wherever, and be replaced. Richard Childress Racing, they're not exactly the top level Cup Series team. They are very dependent on drivers that could bring in sponsorship, trying to make those deals. They're not going to continue working with Austin Hill if he continues to make these kind of dumb mistakes. We know he had a few starts in the country with Beard Motorsports on number 62. That doesn't seem to be happening. If he wants to just stay in the Xfinity Series long-term, be a Saturday driver week in and week out, that's great, but you got to clean up your act, because you continue this, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to lose that privilege.
Yeah, agree, Joe, with kind of everything you said there. Thinking out loud, really. He's lost his playoff points, and if you compare this year's playoff schedule to last year's, he's lost Atlanta as a potential landing spot for a victory, because we know how good he is on super speedways, and that was the first race of the playoffs last year, and now it's not, because we've already had the second Atlanta, so that's out of the way. So he could be in struggle street to get through the first round. Will he learn? As we've said, it's not the first time he's been involved in things, and we're still talking about him doing silly things. The blue collar team is just an absolute joke, and this blue collar team was also the last NASCAR entity that was involved in the last massive on track wrecking people kerfuffle, when Austin Dillon took out Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin at the end of the Richmond race in the Cup Series last August, which of course we've got Richmond coming up in a few weeks' time. So it seems to be an RCR thing, doesn't it? Perhaps. You mentioned Denny Hamlin's comments, Josh, on the podcast. I listen to AD as I do every week. I think the line that Denny used was, "I wouldn't like to be Austin Hill's attorney." I'm going to lay out what I think might have happened, but I wouldn't like to be his lawyer. And while you were also running through there, it suddenly sprung to mind that Austin Hill suddenly reminds me of a movie character. We've all seen Back to the Future. I give you Austin Hill.
I knew you were going there.
Biff Tannen is Austin Hill in the future of the future. No? He was the bully, but he didn't like it when someone gave it back to him, and he ran away. And Austin Hill is proving to be of a similar vein, it seems. But let's see if he sits down this week and watches the race at home like everyone else, going, "Oh, God, I wish I was out there. Oh, yeah, I did that stupid thing last week, didn't I? Well, I'm going to show them next week at Watkins Glen when I go down into turn one and take 4 of them out." Let's see what happens. He might clean up his act, but I will continue to be the man that says this will not happen. Matthew says RCR has been involved in this, and the last year's drama at Richmond and Martinsville, we said, but yes, NASCAR is just randomly targeting them for all those trouble spots that they seem to be getting themselves involved with. It's like the random selection of the random selection of cars that have been involved in incidents pre the race that then get pulled for inspection, isn't it? Afterwards, oh no, they've randomly pulled this car that's been in the news this week or whatever, which used to happen more often than not.
I find it completely comical during the weekend where we have Bubba Wallace leading the race, the 2311 that's going through all the lawsuits at the moment. It's an open entry. He's leading the race, and from 30 odd laps, and then the red flag comes out, the timing screen coincidentally doesn't work. And it breaks in the officials, it breaks everywhere. So that if they couldn't score the result, they'd have to go back to the last complete lap. Thankfully, it got working again, and Bubba won. That's a whole different kettle of fish that we'll deal with later on in the show, I presume. But it just made me giggle that as soon as Bubba took the lead of the race, suddenly now the timing screen decides to break. We don't know who's where and when. It was quite funny. But yeah. Moving on to our second story of the evening. And are you surprised it's a NASCAR theme? So, Denny Hamlin, back to him. We were just talking about him in a different story, but now we'll centre on him because he signed a 2-year contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. So that's the end of the 2027 NASCAR Cup Series season. Now, Hamlin's been in the Cup Series full-time with JGR since 2006, and adding 2 more years to his contract gives him a greater chance of finishing out his full-time driving career with one team. Now, when asked by reporters if this would be his final contract as a full-time Cup Series driver, Hamlin said, most likely, but didn't rule out continuing beyond 2027. On his Actions Detrimental podcast on Monday, Hamlin talked about being on the playoff committee and how the playoff format could play a role in his future. He admitted that the people in the room have many differences when it comes to what the format should be, but most seem to agree that a championship 4 winner-takes-all race to decide the champion needs to go. Hallelujah. Now, however, he believes that we shouldn't expect many, if any, changes to the playoff format for 2026, given how far apart the committee is late in the year. Now, in regards to a future player format, Hamlin said he believes that NASCAR needs to focus on legitimizing the sport, and if they were to come up with a legit way to crown a champion, he'd consider continuing his full-time racing career beyond his 2-year contract extension. But the one thing that is keeping him motivated to remain at the highest level of stock car racing is his ability to be in contention to win races each week. Usually, by age 44, most drivers have seen their better days and fall off in performance. But you could argue that Hamlin is currently performing as well as ever in the Cup Series. In his media availability session last Friday in Indianapolis, he said he wants to know that he can win his last race. Now, as long as he keeps performing like this, he'll keep on going. But if he starts falling off, like every driver does at some point in their career, if they complete long enough, that will be the moment he decides to retire. The graphic courtesy there of Joe Gibbs Racing. So, Matt, coming to you with this one as well. How much longer do you think that Denny Hamlin can actually continue competing at the elite level as he remains undefeated against what seems to be Father Time?
Yeah, seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, he's the grandfather of the garage, perhaps, of the current crop, and now we're going to get him staying around for a little bit longer. And you'd have to say, probably driving the best he's ever driven. Like, what are we? 3 wins on the year. He's up there in contention for the regular season championship, and has been a threat pretty much most weeks. I mean, he came from at a track that everyone on social media says you can't pass at, Indianapolis. He came from the back to be in the front group there at the end on Sunday, after crashing his primary on Saturday, which was a hellacious hit in qualifying. I mean, yeah, perhaps you would have thought end of last year, with FedEx going away, his long-time sponsor, stepping back, maybe that was the beginning of the end for them. If he struggled a little bit and they couldn't pick up some decent long-term sponsorship, then, and Toyota have got plenty of people in the pipeline coming through that would slide nicely into that seat at the top table at Joe Gibbs Racing over the next couple of years. But pen to paper, he's doing the job, and he's always got perhaps his own team to fall back on if he wants to, much like Jimmy Johnson's been doing with Legacy in his sporadic runs recently, go and race for them, perhaps. But that perhaps doesn't matter now, because this is all signed and sealed. And I've gone through my phases with Denny. When he was coming up in the early days of me watching NASCAR, he's one of the young guys. He was quite likable. Then he went through the phase a few years ago where he really wasn't likable at all to me. And then now with the podcast every week, he's turned me back again. And plenty of people supporting that team and the podcast as well. So it's good to see him sticking around. And as I say, he's probably driving the best he's ever driven at the moment.
Denny Hamlin is really on the top of his game this year. I mean, 3 wins, and then he got that 4th win to lead all the drivers. When it comes to win totals, it's been a while since we've seen that really from Denny. Best I can recall was when it was him and Harvick, and these just seem to be going week after week, taking turns on who was winning a few years ago. Denny Hamlin overall, I think, is a smart move. 2027, so that means you got all next year, 2026, and then 2027. I think that's really where we're going to see where is Denny Hamlin as a driver. If he is still competitive with Joe Gibbs Racing, still contending for wins, I think he could go an additional year. The interesting part, though, about his comment was the championship format. Potentially that'll be 2027. If Denny Hamlin has a championship format where he feels like, okay, the legitimacy of the sport has been reestablished and it could continue to grow, I think if he is winning and he is in support of this championship format, I think he could go much longer, 2028, maybe 2029, but that's going to be really dependent. However, if we have a format where it's just the same one race, 4 drivers and something like that, or he just at that point was like, I'm done with it as a driver. I want to focus it as a team owner, maybe do some occasional starts, some of the big races. I can see him doing that 2027. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes with Denny Hamlin. I think that's great. He is part of this committee looking at the playoff championship format. Because at the end of the day, I think he has a vested interest in the sport. He wants to be part of it. He wants to help the sport succeed long term. But at the same time, as a driver, though, if you feel like you're in a system where it's just, it doesn't award consistency, it doesn't award a great season, it doesn't award who has the most wins, it's just, you could have 3 bad races in that round of 8, and you're out of a championship despite maybe having the most wins, despite something out of your luck. I think he really wants something that he feels is legitimate, that he could be part of, race for championships, because it seems really his big goal is just get those race wins, get himself in the Hall of Fame. With the race wins he has, plus the crown jewel race wins of Daytona 500s and others, easily he could stop racing and say, I've had a tremendous career in the Cup Series.
Yeah, podcast as well that we've been advertising a lot, continuing to give us more stories here.
Sorry, Josh, can I just come back in quickly before we move
sure.
on to the next bit? I'll 2 things. We mentioned the playoff format. Joe just put it up there. If you didn't watch the show last week, go back. Me, Josh, and Ben, who was with us, had a good long debate about this whole playoff format debacle and what's been going on social media on the last couple of weeks on last week's show. It's either in last week's Grid Tonight or we split it up and put it on the main videos page on the YouTube channel. Our whole discussion is on there if you want to check that out. And secondly, a note from our friend Mr. Owens, who is watching, and he had this down for the Indianapolis race at the weekend, but we never got to use it. And also, I said Denny's won 3 races this year, and he's actually won 4. So I forgot about Dover. That's what happens when you watch.
Everybody does forget about Dover.
Well, that's what happens when you watch almost 450 races of the year, and we're only at the end of July. 58 wins on the career now for Denny. 31 of them came in his first 13 full seasons, which is 2.4 per season. He's got 27 in his last 7 seasons, which is 3.9 per year. So you can see where that stat is tracking, and that goes with what we've said about, he's driving as best as he ever has.
He really is, isn't he? I mean, Fernando Alonso, Valentino Rossi, Denny Hamlin. It's just modern sports stars. Bautista, yeah. How we got away with that crash at the weekend. I think we're in an age where medical standards are allowing us to go a lot further in our racing careers. The advances is fantastic. Or everyone's just realised that maybe we are just back in the 1950s. Because Fangio was, he wasn't a young chicken, was he? When he was winning races. By the way, it's next year, isn't it? Is it 1955 or 1956, Matt, when Sterling won the British Grand Prix? It's 56, isn't it?
Without looking, I couldn't tell you.
It's one of the years.
Wrong book under my tablet right now. If I had the right book, I could pull it straight out and have a look. It's over there.
It's one of the years that we're celebrating the 70th anniversary of that race, and just Fangio being a gentleman and letting Sterling through an injury as well. That was another one. And I think we're getting back to those days as well, especially with Denny. Why are we talking about Denny so much recently as well? Last week we were talking about him with the podcast as well, and the Sirius XM, not talking about Denny Hamlin, inverted commas, technically as well. Should we move on to some breaking news, surprisingly, around NASCAR as well? It's NASCAR theme tonight. So earlier today, Cowlick Racing has announced that they've parted ways with the NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Josh Williams, effective immediately. Now, for most of his career, Williams has gained a reputation as an underdog driver who often outperformed his equipment with underfunded teams. Now, he did put in some good results as well with the DGM Racing, which landed him the chance of a lifetime to drive for Cowlick beginning in 2024. Now, many believed that Williams would have the opportunity to compete for wins for the first time in his Xfinity Series career, but those early hopes turned into disappointment, and last year Williams was outperformed by his teammate by a significant margin. AJ Allmendinger made it all the way to the Championship 4, and even Shane Van Gisbergen, who was in his first full season in NASCAR, made the playoffs with 3 wins on road courses. And despite his inexperience on ovals, SVG finished 12th in points and ran better than Williams on the ovals. Now, Williams finished 18th in points last year, and many believed reset this year would help him reach his full potential. However, when you look at the stats as well on Racing Reference, there hasn't been much of an improvement after 21 races this year. In 2024, Williams had no top fives, 4 top tens, 14 leg laps, an average starting position of 23.5, an average finishing position of 21.7. Now, his stats after 21 races this year: no top fives, only 2 top tens, no laps led, an average starting position of 22.8, an average finishing position of 20th. Now, to make matters worse for Williams, he's currently 19th in the points behind his 2 rookie teammates, Christian Eckes and Daniel Dye, who sit 16th and 17th respectively. Now, Carlick has said multiple drivers will drive the number 11 Chevrolet for the remainder of the season, and Cup Series driver Carson Hocevar will fill in this weekend at Iowa Speedway. The photo and graphic in this segment courtesy of Williams, and this is his statement he put out. As most of you have seen, Carlick Racing has made the decision to release me for the remainder of the season. This has been a difficult day for my family, friends, longtime partners, and fans, whom I can't thank enough for standing by my side throughout all of this. We will be back soon and looking forward to a much brighter chapter in my racing career. I wish nothing but the team the best for my guys on the number 11 team. Well, given how he's performed in 54 Xfinity Series races with the team, did Carlick actually make the right decision to move on from Josh Williams, or do you feel like their performance-related problems go beyond him as a driver?
That is a hard way to evaluate. Because at the end of the day, we do know Carlick Racing has not exactly been where they were in the past, in the Xfinity Series level and in the Cup Series level. It's always a combination, and especially in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, where it comes down to the equipment, to the driver, the chemistry between them, the crew chief, the car engineer, so many different factors. Because we've seen at times where with Carlick Racing, they're one of the top teams. They have winning contention week in and week out. We've seen that slide. I mean, last year, I think a lot of us were talking about what's going on with Carlick, what's going on, especially with their Cup Series program, where they just seem to have rotating different driver. This year, there's been some improvements, but I think it's just still not enough. In the case of Josh Williams, just unfortunate timing, I think, with last year being his first full year. Okay, first year, getting the hang of everything. Now here's your second year. This is the Xfinity Series. You really need to step it up by that second year, because I think, as we mentioned a little bit earlier when we talked about Austin Hill, you got upcoming drivers. Some drivers are going to bring sponsorship money, funding to help the team out. Josh Williams might be a very popular driver amongst fans, especially what he did at Atlanta 2 years ago, the underdog story. But at the end of the day, if you're not performing at the track and the team has tried, okay, maybe we need to look at a crew chief change. Maybe we need to do something with our setup. When it gets down to it, it comes down to maybe we need to do something in the driver's seat. Unfortunately, I think that's where Carlick was left. Maybe this is something we got to do in the driver's seat. It's going to be really interesting as they bring in different drivers to be in there. Could we see improvement in that team, or do we not see improvement in that team? I think Carlick, by the end of the year, they'll know clearly if they have made the right move or not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that group goes, isn't it, with the rotating drivers through from here to the end of the season, and see, what kind of just a sort of general overall performance will improve or not from that team. I mean, you look at Josh Williams, he was kind of one of those sort of 3/4 of the way back in the field kind of guys that was always kind of there, but not really putting up any stumps. Suddenly, after that stupidity, let's put it that way, from as far as I stand, from that stuff that happened at Atlanta that Joe mentioned, was that 2 years ago now in the spring, when he got black flagged and decided, no, I'm going to park my car here. Suddenly sponsors jumped on board, and there was a bit of more of a buzz and a hype around this guy that was sticking it to the establishment. He gets bumped into a top running team with AJ Allmendinger as one of your teammates, and as you said, Josh, he made it all the way to the championship 4. And it just hasn't happened for him, and I can't really say I'm surprised that this has happened. Really, when you look at his teammates, I mean, they're both rookies in the Xfinity Series, but Christian Eckers is multiple-time Truck Series winner. Daniel Dye has been very successful in his early part of his career coming up. He's got in a few scrapes along the way, but he's certainly got some speed, and you just need to iron out the crashing. So I mean, let's see where Josh ends up. I'm sure he'll be back in some shape or form here or there, or maybe we won't see him again until he picks up a full-time ride, perhaps back in that 3/4 of the field for next year's Xfinity opener at Daytona and beyond.
It's going to be quite interesting to continue following his story as well after what has been up and down season as well. And a couple of times we've mentioned in commentary this year as well, when I've been covering the Xfinity Series, it has never been in a happy tone. There's always something that's gone wrong, or he's had an extra pit stop for damage or something. So we'll keep an eye on him, as you say. So, moving on to our third story, and perhaps the most frightening that we've got, because the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver of Stewart Friesen as well suffered serious injuries on Monday night in a super dirt car race as well. Now, as many NASCAR fans know, when Friesen isn't behind the wheel of his number 52 Halmer Friesen Racing Toyota Tundra, he's usually racing somewhere on the dirt in his big block modified. Now, a couple of nights ago, Friesen was competing at the Autodrome Drummond, which is located in the Canadian province of Quebec. Now, his big block modified going down the backstretch until he jumped the cushion, which sent the car sideways into the air. Then the car flipped a few times before catching on fire, and as it was about to come to rest on its roof, Friesen got clobbered by another competitor. Now, the horrific scenes stunned the racing community. The safety officials were able to remove Friesen from his destroyed car, which was completely ripped to shreds. Now, the Super Dirt Series initially said that Friesen was alert and communicating with those at the scene of the accident. They then transported him to hospital for further evaluation. And as you can see on your screens right now, Stewart's wife, Jessica, provided some updates on his condition. On Tuesday morning, we learned that Friesen's CT scans were positive, as he suffered no injuries to his head, neck, or spine. However, he was feeling a significant amount of pain from suffering an unstable / open book pelvic fracture. Now, this means a broken pelvis in 2 or more places. He also had a large hematoma in that area, which is a localized collection of blood outside of blood vessels, often resulting from injury or trauma. Now, Friesen's also fractured his right leg, and both his injuries will require surgery. On Tuesday evening, we received an update saying that Friesen was in a serious but stable condition at the hospital in Quebec. However, he was set to be transferred from Quebec to a different hospital in New York, where he will have multiple surgeries in the coming days. It appears to be a long road ahead for Stewart to recover from these injuries, as the winner of the Truck Series race at Michigan seemed to be destined to make some noise in the playoffs. Now, the timing of Friesen's injury comes at an unfortunate time for a driver who was going through the highs and lows of NASCAR. At Rockingham, Friesen went from questioning if he wanted to continue his Truck Series career after getting wrecked out of the race to grinning from ear to ear after taking the checkered flag in the Irish Hills of Michigan. The playoffs start on August the 30th in Darlington, and if Friesen has to forfeit his spot to put his health first, Jake Garcia will go from behind the first driver below the cut line to being the last driver in on the bubble, when Ben Rhodes becomes the first driver out as well on that little schedule. But more importantly, we wish Stewart Friesen well during his challenging time, and hopefully he will make a full and speedy recovery. Before his injury, Friesen had a decent run in last Friday night's Truck Series race at IRP and finished third before getting disqualified after the race for not meeting the minimum height requirements. his co-owned Halmer Friesen Racing Team appealed that penalty and lost earlier today. So the disqualification stands, and a graphic courtesy there of the team. Well, with Stewart's 2025 season likely over, does this whole situation give you a better understanding of why some team owners are hesitant about letting their drivers compete in other racing series, and how relevant are you? How relieved, I should say, are you that Freeman? He survived one of the worst dirt modified wrecks we've seen in a very, very long time as well. Kobe sent me the footage, and flashbacks to Ryan Newman as well at Daytona, which just straight to the side. It was awful.
Yeah, very relieved that Stewart got out of that. Not okay, obviously, as you documented, Josh, with the injuries that he's got. But all the power to him and to Jess and the whole team up there for getting him back healthy again. And hopefully we can see him back at the start, I guess at the start of next year, back in that truck and ready to race. If he's going to miss the beginning of the playoffs, there's no real reason to rush back. And it doesn't sound like he's going to be in a fit state to be at Darlington in 4 weeks' time for the playoff opener there for the Truck Series. So, as we talked about with Jorge Martin at the start of the year, there's no point rushing. You need to get yourself well and come back and be ready. Our thoughts are with Stewart Friesen and that team and his family and everything else that he pulls through this and he's back to full health as quickly as possible. Part A of the question, absolutely right. If I was a team owner in NASCAR, you would not see my guys that I'm contracted to drive my car and I am paying going off and racing here, there, and everywhere all the time. The odd one here or there. Maybe in the off season, and we see obviously Kyle Larson does everything, but like him, Christopher Bell, do the Chili Bowl and things at the beginning of the year, which is before the season starts. Granted, if they have an injury in that, then the start of their year is ruined. I get that, but Alex Bowman got injured, didn't he, a couple of years ago when he hurt his back in a sprint car. There's been other people that have had incidents away from the NASCAR sphere. It's not like they're going down into the Xfinity series, a Cup Series guy going down to Xfinity and hurting themselves. A little bit different. But for me, you're paid by the team to drive for me. Please don't go and do anything silly and get yourself beat up so that you cannot drive for me, and then I can't pay you for coming to drive for me because you're not healthy enough.
So relieved that Stewart Friesen is going to be able to recover. It's an unfortunate long road recovery, but having him being able to, continue his progress to come back, I think that's just such a huge relief because we know the dangers, and especially when it comes to your local dirt track. It is the first step for a lot of people when it comes to racing. If they want to get to that professional level, you go to your local dirt track. Some places have a local paved track. But you look at a lot of these tracks, smaller budgets, smaller prize money, the safety equipment sometimes lacking. A lot of them, concrete walls. You don't have safer barriers. Some of them may have put some foam padding or foam blocks for some of the walls, but it's not all the way around. The roll cages on these vehicles, they are engineered to do their job, but in the case of Stewart's accident, that video footage was just vicious. It was so savage seeing it. That first impact and then the second one, we just know how a lot of times vehicles are designed that when they're taking an impact, there's usually one big initial impact. So when you get a second one, if there's something compromised, it's a scary situation. We've seen, unfortunately, tragedies. Jason Leffler, comes to mind. Former Cup Series driver, sprint racing. Just one of those deals where it really, I think, is just sort of that reminder of the threat, the danger in motorsports exists in all level. We know the big series, F1, NASCAR, IndyCar, they've done a lot to improve the safety. Safety is our number one priority. We still have accidents where folks get injured, where the cars are going to the R&D center, being evaluated, what could be done better and better. And thankfully, a lot of wrecks where everyone held their breath, but thankfully, in most cases, the driver walked away. Or in the case of Ryan Newman, the most scary one I could think of more recently, days later, he walked out of the hospital.
Mm.
So relieved that Stewart Friesen was able to survive this accident. It could have been a huge tragedy, and I think it really just highlights that if you're a Cup Series owner, there is a risk of allowing your driver to do this. I mean, Rick Hendrick could easily say, hey, Kyle Larson, next contract, we're going to put limits on which events you can do and not do. I mean, it's something where we've seen Alex Bowman been injured in a sprint race. It's just one of those delicate situations where this is going to come down to when it comes to negotiating. Does the owner sees the benefit of having my driver doing these races, getting that track time in a car that's very different from what I'm hiring them to race on? Or is this something where the driver is going to really say, I'm willing to give up something to be in that premier level of motorsports? It's all going to come down to where they see is the best equal plan that will benefit both of them. And overall, I mean, we'll be looking forward once Stewart comes back on the track. I know his passion is dirt track racing. I mean, that's where he started. A lot of drivers are that way too. But this is an unfortunate reminder for everyone that when you go there to the dirt track, there's still a lot of danger there and a lot of risk involved.
And before, well, I'll read these out first. Big prayers for Stewart as well. By the way, big block modified racing is popular in the northeastern Canada. The big race takes place on the Moody Mile as well. 300 lap race as well. My goodness me, that's insane. Some legend names that have competed in big block modified race include Brett the Jet Hearn and Barefoot Bob McCready. Oh yeah, I think I didn't even talk about that before. Garlic has capitalized on winning on super speedways and road courses. Those tracks combine for 18 of their 27 all-time wins. My goodness me. No intermediates there. Oh, and JT's giving me an essay. He did actually text me saying I apologize. So this is going to be really painful. I know we have freak accidents, and this was a freak accident, but I think the US ovals need looking at safety-wise. Even though there's no spectators or anyone in the areas, I'm concerned about the lack of barriers with open corners. That's completely different, but just using this as an example. We had a driver in Aldershot have a heart attack behind the wheel while under the accelerator, which meant stuck throttle. If that happened at the track where the incident was, that driver would have been out of the track. It's hard because the ovals in the UK are flat, with the ovals in the US being heavily banked, where no barriers might be even safer with the cushion. US ovals are much more quicker than UK ovals, but it seems like UK ovals are far safer than the quicker US ovals. It's about finding the balance between a barrier safer than a barrier? Is catch fencing safer, or will that hurt the car and driver more? With US ovals, it's about finding the best to protect the drivers. God, he's right about that being an essay, wasn't he? Anna says Stewart has done more with Autumn in the past, and you know that I also have Autumn. Yes, as well. It's a fantastic blue shirt there as well that he runs as well. Remember, I think Denny Hamlin will retire with Joe Gibbs Racing in the future with Adam as well. Just go back to the oval comment there as well. Yeah, it's. I remember that accident that JT was telling me about. Actually, he was trackside when it happened. It is weird how with the American ovals, it's sort of math, isn't it? It's different because here in the UK, it's safety mad around those ovals, but in America, the safety seems to only go up to the high tier series where you see the airline safety crews come on. The lower series, it seems like it's just, well, good luck, out you go. It's a weird sort of mentality.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And I drove past one of JT's favourite places today, the Shale Way at Northampton. Yeah, I guess the lower down the pecking order we go, the less safety there is in terms of track or in terms of, as you said, medical crews and stuff. And it's the really sort of bargain basement kind of racing, where we're not going to have all the safety stuff. And that accident that Stewart had this week, you know, there was very little in terms of any kind of safety stuff on the back stretch there in terms of wall, catch fencing, etc. So it kind of went back into the track and was collected by the traffic. That's kind of a kind of an overly thing that kind of happens all the time, but it was the initial stuff that was really frightening, and could have been a lot worse.
And that's the thing. One of the big barriers when it comes to getting in motorsports, of course, is the cost. So some folks know I used to drive stock cars on a dirt track in Alaska. My first 2 years there, roll cage was not required until after you roll over the car. So there was a period of I'm racing without a roll cage. Now, 2 years later, at a different racetrack in Alaska, I got T-boned, got a concussion, but that roll cage on the side saved my life. Afterwards, now everyone, okay, roll cage is mandatory, but it's something where these drivers, these promoters, track owners, there's so much risk in motorsports, and they have to find that balance of what can we do to make it where somebody that doesn't have the sponsorship money, that doesn't have the funding, could get in here. And unfortunately, safety is one of those areas. Now, there's some universal safety aspects. 5-point harness, check. Helmet, approved helmet, check. But then when it comes to, okay, concrete walls, well, that's the best we could do. Hopefully nobody crashes into them head on. It is a risk that a lot of folks, I think, sort of forget that your local short track drivers, they could be just a series of an incident, or worse, a fatal incident, just the same amount or sometimes even more likely than what you see at the professional level.
Yeah.
It is a risk in motorsport, and it's just one of those deals where it's such a hard balance to find for these tracks, these drivers. Where does the safety measures stack up to the cost, and where do we say we're comfortable racing in this environment?
That roll cage still is mad. It's like me setting my 6-year-old off without stabilizers and going, oh, she's fallen off, put them back on.
Yeah, I saw somebody on TikTok today who doesn't believe in stabilizers. So they invented a bike where you sit on it and it's sort of like a scooter. So you kick your legs on it at the bottom. It's designed for kids so that they get used to not having stabilizers. And I thought, yeah, great idea.
Bike.
Yeah, balance bike, that's it. Yeah, great idea. But, you know, if you're going on a family bike ride, you want your kids safe. Put the stabilizers on. It's like, I would not let my now, well, actually, he's 6, so probably, I don't know if he does have stabilizers or not. Last time I knew he had stabilizers, but that's not wrong. But I wouldn't let my nephew ride without stabilizers, and certainly wouldn't let my 18, 19-year-old month niece anywhere near anything that didn't have 3 or 4 wheels. You know, it's like she's not getting on 2 wheels yet. Plus, she's going to be a footballer as well, so she's got her foot skills are amazing. And she's a little terrorist as well, actually, as well. I didn't mean that. I built towers with her blocks. She came in, looked at me, smiled, and knocked them over, and then laughed and walked away. So, yeah, thank you very much as well for my niece being a big bully. I think I've mentioned that on the show before as well, actually. Okay, so let's go over for the latest with the Grid ePay update. Yeah, thank you very much, JT. Just for that, you can have an extra broadcast this weekend as well. Oh, he's on the 9th. Lovely. Let's go then for the latest of the Grid EPI update and head over to Matt White.
Thank you, Josh. Another week of Grid Network Endurance Performance Index Motorsport this weekend, and it came from Australia. Our only featured races from this weekend. They were at Sandown for the GT World Challenge Australia. 2 races across the weekend, an emotional one. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, the death of Tim Miles, a competitor in that championship. Well, one of his drivers ended up winning the first race of the weekend in that Ferrari. Jackson Evans, as part of the Supercars Championship as well. Dual campaigning here with the GT World Challenge. He held off all comers on Saturday to take a victory with alongside Elliott Shute. And Jackson was one of the guys mentored by Tim Miles over his early part of his career. So that was a very emotional time down there at Sandown, just outside of Melbourne on Saturday, to take the victory. They're the championship leaders and continue to be marching, it looked like, towards that championship. Didn't go so well for them on Sunday, though, because Aston Martin took victory with Liam Talbot, last year's champion, who was paired up with Jamie Day for the first time this weekend, and they ended up getting the victory on Sunday there for the Aston Martin team. No changes in the points from those races for the grid EPI standings. Here is how they look, exactly the same as last week, with Kenta Yamashita and Shota Tsube at the top of the standings, only just over European Le Mans Series runner Ollie Gray. But we are going to see some changes this weekend because we have plenty of stuff on the deck, with Super GT being one of them. They're back after their summer break. They're at Fuji for the second race at Fuji on the season, so expect a change in at least the points number, perhaps position, for our points leaders. Also on at the weekend, the GT World Challenge Europe touches down in France at Magny-Cours for 2 sprint races, and it's IMSA action at Road America this weekend for their traditional summer stop off. And of course, it's a 2-hour 40 race there. Next year, it will be a longer race for IMSA. So perhaps plenty of changes to the top end of the standings with, 4 of the top 5 in action over the weekend. And Charles Wirtz will be in the races at Magny-Cours as well. So plenty of guys at the top of the grid EPI in action in week 19, and we'll shuffle up the standings, bring you the results of all of those races that I mentioned on the show next week. Summer break over for a few of the championships. They're going to get back into full swing here as we head towards the end of the year and the championship running for lots of them. Almost an hour into the show, Kobe's been sitting patiently, and here he is to tell you about some other of the news stories from the week.
Thanks, Matt. And before we get to that, going to catch up on a few comments in the chat. Adam Limerick says the Moody Mile is a 1-mile dirt track at the New York State Fairgrounds in Syracuse, New York. And Humperdinck, nice to see you again and sing in a while. You said a lot of local short tracks operate on a shoestring budget, and the tracks themselves have been around for decades and decades. It's hard for the owners to do as much as they want to do, and that's absolutely true, Humperdinck. You saw before we had the NASCAR Clash at Bum and Gray. Bum and Gray had them old walls and a whole bunch of other things that need renovated. And then, NASCAR came in, and then Bum and Gray was brought up to modern standards. So I think it's really good, when we get back to those short tracks and try to invest. But as you were saying, without much support, there's only so much those tracks can do. And Josh T says in the UK, we have a mixed Armco barrier, steel plate, and steel cable fences. But yeah, there are a lot of types. And then you also said, and even above the Armco, there's a steel cable. So even if the car rolls and it goes over the Armco, it gets caught in the steel cable. And yes, this is a conversation that we'll continue to talk about for quite a long time. And now it's time for some more motorsports news from around the world. 5 days after turning 15 years old, Tristan McKee will make his ARCA Menard Series debut next weekend at Watkins Glen International. McKee is a Spire Motorsports development driver, and he'll make his first ARCA start driving the team's number 77 Chevrolet with sponsorship from Gamebridge, and then we'll see him in the ARCA West season finale this fall at Phoenix. He's currently running full-time in Trans Am and leads the championship over there by 82 points after scoring a pole, 2 wins, and 6 podiums so far. In addition, McKee has competed in 13 late model races up to this point, including some starts in the Cars Tour. McKee said racing in ARCA is another discipline for him to learn, grow, and become the driver he wants to be. Graphic courtesy of Spire Motorsports. iRacing announced the release date for the new console racing game, NASCAR 25, this fall on October 14th. NASCAR 25 will launch on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S, with PC via Steam coming at a later date. Since the relationship with Motorsport Games came to an end, iRacing obtained the licensing rights to create a NASCAR video game, which will be the company's first standalone NASCAR console game. And for the first time, the ARCA Menard Series will be featured in the console game, featured in the Craftsman Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. And speaking of ARCA, on Monday, iRacing announced a full list of drivers from ARCA National, East, and West who'll be in the game. Gamers will have over 50 different drivers to choose from, whether it's William Sawalich and the number 18 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, or current ARCA National Championship leader Brendan Butterbean Queen, driving the number 28 Pinnacle Racing Group Chevrolet, including other full-time competitors such as LeVar Scott, Isabella Robusto, and Lawless Allen. And you'll also have access to the likes of Dale Quarterly, Takuma Koga, Cletus McFarland, Brad Smith, Will Campbell, Corey Day, and so much more. Graphic courtesy of iRacing. And also earlier today, they released the complete roster for the Craftsman Truck Series as well, and we should expect to see the Xfinity and Cup Series in the coming days and weeks ahead. So iRacing going full throttle to promote this NASCAR 25 video game that's coming out on October 14, 2025. Toyota development driver Jade Avedizian will compete in the ARCA Menard Series of Venturini Motorsports. She'll drive the number 25 Toyota with sponsorship from Yahoo in her ARCA national debut on August 31st on the dirt at the DeQuoin State Fairgrounds, followed by an ARCA West race on October 10th at the Las Vegas Bull Ring with sponsorship from 01 coming from the dirt racing scene. Debuting at DeQuoin seems like a great track for Avedizian to start on, as she won the 2022 Extreme Outlaw Midget Series Championship and became the first female driver to finish on the podium on preliminary night at the Chili Bowl Nationals. In addition to racing midgets on the dirt, she has also driven in Toyota GR Cup, the Cars Tour, and Trans Am. Avedizian says she grew up watching Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell and believes that drivers with a dirt racing background like hers have a lot more feel for the car, which should really help her in the transition to a heavier stock car. Graphic courtesy of Venturini Motorsports. And after losing his ride in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Chris Wright is returning to the ARCA Menard Series like Avedizian. He'll be with Venturini Motorsports, the same team he ran full-time with last year, and finished third in the points. The first race of Wright's three-race schedule will be this Friday at Iowa Speedway. Then he'll make additional starts at Watkins Glen in Kansas. Wright said Iowa, Watkins Glen, and Kansas are a great variety of tracks and praised the team for running a top-notch program. Graphic courtesy of Venturini Motorsports. AAA's Red Bull Ampol Racing re-signed Will Brown and Brock Feeney to 3-year contract extensions through the 2029 Repco Supercars Championship season. In 2023, both drivers had signed through the end of the 2026 season, and now the team is showing greater commitment to them by locking them down for the rest of the decade. Brown has won 6 races in 2 seasons with the team, including last year's championship, while Feeney has dominated supercars this year with 22 wins, 41 podiums, and counting in his 4th full season as he closes in on becoming the first driver to clinch his spot in the supercars version of the playoffs after Queensland by locking up the Sprint Cup portion of the season. Managing director Jimmy Wincup said that he pushed hard to lock down Brown and Feeney long-term because it's rare to find a genuinely positive dynamic between two drivers, as both of them have shown full commitment to the bigger picture of driving each other forward and lifting the whole team. Graphics courtesy of Red Bull Ampol Racing. The 2026 MotoGP schedule was released with 22 race weekends on 5 different continents. Once again, the season will kick off in Thailand on March 1st before a long-awaited return to Brazil on March 22nd. We'll see Brazil replace Argentina on the schedule, and a week after the Brazilian Grand Prix, MotoGP will return to the United States at COTA on March 29th, and following the Qatar Grand Prix on April 12th, MotoGP will spend the next few months racing across Europe as they always do. However, a few of the European races will have a brand new spot on the calendar. The Austrian Grand Prix will move from mid-August to September 20th as the final race of the months-long European tour before the flyaway races, while the Czech Grand Prix at Brno moves up from July to June 21st as the trip to Hungary goes from August to June 7th, so full 2 months there. And after an unpopular move to Memorial Day weekend earlier this year, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone will return to a summer date on August 9th, and then the traditional flyaways of Japan, Indonesia, Australia, and Malaysia return before ending the 2026 season with a pair of European rounds in Portugal and the season finale in Valencia on November 22nd. Graphic courtesy of MotoGP. And this next story I have for you didn't include on the script because ran out of time, but reading from the press release, we have the endurance lineup set now in supercars as Premier Air announced that Nash Moores is going to be driving alongside Richie Stanaway at the Bend Enduro, and then the Bathurst 1000. If that name sounds familiar, Nash the Flash Moores is the son of Paul the Dude Moores, so great opportunity there for Nash, who's currently racing in Super 2. Believe he's currently 3rd in the Super 2 standings, and getting this opportunity to race in Premier Air, certainly going to get his name, put out there as a potential full-time supercars driver in the future. And Nash said that he's couldn't be more excited to be joining Premier and Richie Stanaway for the Enduros. And he said this is going to mark his first laps in the main game, and he feels ready for the challenge. And he also got a win in Super 2, in Tasmania, which was a huge boost to his confidence. And he believes that shows that he's developing as a driver, and he's ready to go once Enduro season kicks off in the Repco Supercars Championship. And that's all of the stories I have for you. Now I'm going to turn it to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Thank you, Kobe. Time for Pick a Winner. It is back this weekend, and you can join the fun by getting involved by using the hashtag Pick a Winner on the Grid Network TV social channels. There is the point standings. We've gone 3 of us now past 50 points. Happy birthday to the point leader, Matt B. He's on 56, 1 point ahead of Kobe and 5 points back to myself. This weekend, there is few and far between picker winners because it's quite a quiet weekend. We're going to start, though, with the Grand Prix on gravel. Rally Finland kicks off at the weekend, the latest round of the World Rally Championship. Hard to say, really. I mean, it could go any way, but the way Toyota have been going, you wouldn't put it past them. I'm going to go for Kalle Rovanperä to pick up a victory this weekend in Finland on home soil.
I think the trend with me picking Kalle Rovanperä is, gone back to what it used to be. Whenever I would pick him, he never wins. And whenever I don't pick him, he wins. So he's probably going to win his home race this weekend. I'm going to go with the guy who recently added this to his schedule. Actually added this to his schedule earlier at the beginning of the month. Originally wasn't going to run this, but give me Sebastian Ogier.
Sorry, I'm on me. I was just reading the entry list and agreeing that Sebastian Ogier is on the list coming into it as well. I was just reading down to see if I was going to pick Old Tanik or not. I wasn't too sure, but I'll stick with the Toyotas and I'll stick with Sebastian Ogier as well. Yeah, I was just reading down on the entry list to sort of catch myself back up.
I'm going to go with Tonic. I think overall he's got the momentum. I think he really will love to get a win and show what he can do with a Hyundai.
Kind of been the man on form recently. Has Tanak, was beaten by Ollie Solberg, of course, in Latvia a couple of weeks ago. Get you picking for that one if you are picking for it by Friday, because it is an early start, as they always are, for the WRC weekends. Our other race to pick from tonight is the IMSA race, which is at Road America, as I mentioned earlier during the Grid EPI update. That is on Sunday afternoon. Again, could go multiple different ways with this one. I'm going to stick with the form, though, and I'm going to go with Penske Porsche, and Penske Perfect, and I'm going to go with the number 6 car to win on Sunday. Kobe?
Yeah, I think Porsche probably is going to be the favorite to win, but I'm going to go with the other one. I'm going to go with Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy in the number 7 Porsche.
7. I risked most of my points this year going with 7. Actually, there. Both mean peace, so that's good.
I'm going with you can't. There we go. Number 6, the Porsche number 6. I think you can't deny the Porsche, so they're looking good. I'm going with the number 6 Porsche.
And continue the hand signals. This weekend we have the Formula 1 Grand Prix of Budapest, the IMSA race at Road America, WRC Finland, and the NASCAR race at COTA to pick from. So 4 pick-a-winner points available for you this weekend. Get your picks in using the hashtag pick-a-winner before the start of the events. You've got all the way up to the green flags or lights out or whatever start of races to get your picks in across all the social media channels. Adam is going for Elvin Evans to win. That'll be good. We'll like a bit of that in Finland. He's also going for the number 6 car to win at Road America on Sunday. So that is your pick-a-winner update for the week. Get your hashtag pick-a-winner choices in, and you can be on the board. And there's still 80-something points available from memory from the spreadsheet that I do on a Monday. So you could quite easily get yourself well into that first page if you have a decent weekend of selections. And you can still even catch the 3 of us way up there at the top of the standings before the end of the season. Still half the year, pretty much, of pick-up winner to go. To finish out the show, as we always do, it is Hots and Knots. And Joe is with us this week, so he's going to join us for Hots and Knots. So I will leave the floor to you two gentlemen for the moment. What have you got for Hots and Knots?
Oh, blimey. Hots. First of all, I want to say how proud I am of the Formula 3 and Formula 2 drivers. As me, Jake Sanson, Omi, and JT were mentioning throughout the weekend, I am so proud that each and every one of them proved to us why we can race at Spa-Francorchamps in both dry and wet weather conditions. That was some stunning driving from them all. It did get a little bit too wet on Sunday morning with a few drivers aquaplaning, but not really anything any of them could have done. It was the right decision to stop that race. But in terms of cooling their heads down a little bit after the stewards talked to them on Friday night after the embarrassment of qualifying in Formula 3, the drivers on Saturday really, really impressed me. So that's my hot. Because we were saying maybe we shouldn't race the juniors at Spa because of what was happening in the past. But they impressed me this weekend. I enjoyed the Brickyard races. I thought there was both the Xfinity and the Cup Series were strategic races. I thought for one moment we might have another Brickyard tyre puncture issue, but that was thankfully only an isolated couple. World Superbikes was okay at Hungary, but I didn't see much of that. It was a busy weekend. I was sort of flying everywhere. And Formula E was, it was all right, but it's not really working at XL anymore. So, yeah, they're my hots on the weekend.
Joe?
My hot, definitely, I would say Bubba Wallace getting that big win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think that's the biggest hot of the weekend overall. When you look at other hots, for me, Catherine Legg, what a drive, what an effort. And
super.
We found out her cool suit even failed towards the end.
Ooh.
I mean, gee whiz, like her team said on the radio, if we had time to test with her, we could get results. And I would love to see NASCAR allow more practice time and testing for those teams. And then over in IndyCar, I would say when you look at Laguna Seca, the race weekend, Indy next, great racing out there. IndyCar itself was dominated, but it was one of those deals where I think we all know that championship is pullover, as we've been saying. So I would say those are my three big hots from the weekend.
Yeah, definitely for me, Bubba and Cat Legg, stunning on both counts. Scott Redding getting a win in BSB at Brands Hatch was good to see after he's had a couple of troubled years back in the world paddock, and now he's gone back to the British Championship. He's picked up a win. If Kobe can flash that back on the screen from Adam there, I'll go through his hots. Thank you. SVG wins on an Overland Legends car. Yes, that was next on my list. That was last night, wasn't it, at Charlotte, getting his first oval victory. It was in a legend car, but they all count. Bubba Wallace winning the Brickyard 400. He's not long ago on Twitter posted a picture of his trophy in his house. It's found its way there, and he's got it set up with all these others, so that looks cool. Piastri winning at Spa, and Junior Motorsports getting win number 100 in the Xfinity Series with my next hot, and I will hot this forever, it seems, every time we bring him up. We have to say, chapeau, Connor Zilic. The kid is absolutely on fire at the moment. Has not been outside the top 5 since May in the Xfinity Series. Just ridiculous. Matthew says, Brickyard 400 is hot. Don't let social media gaslight you and convince you that the race doesn't matter and that you can't pass and the track is terrible and no one attends.
It was great. It was fantastic.
Good. There was plenty of people there. It's difficult to make it look full because of how full it is for the 500, but there was plenty of people there. We had a good strategy race in the first half, and then much like Dover last week, and I said this on the call on Sunday, at about 5 to 10. Oh, we're almost at the end here. It's going to be an early finish tonight. Oh, God. And then we had to sit around for an hour waiting for them to dry one corner.
This is my knot. Would you like, first of all, the man who keeps cursing this is Omi, because he keeps coming into the commentary box and saying, "Oh, I hope you're not finished soon," or anything like that. And then literally, he's doing it 3 times now, all within the last 10 laps, and we've gone to red flag every time. I want to kill him. It's driving me at the wall because I've just sat there for an hour going, yeah, okay, this is fun. I want to go to bed, banging my head against the door. It happened at Dover twice. It happened in Indy twice. It's like, just go away. If we are below 15 laps to go, the race is over. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. We can't spend an hour clearing the track when we are probably going to have to multiple overtimes. The fuel's going to go, and somebody who's starting 20th is probably going to win the race. It's a stupid rule. It really was. We were all thinking, oh well, Bubba's got this one. The red flag came out, and then we're thinking, well, hang on a minute. He says he's got enough fuel for it because NASCAR drivers are going to NASCAR driver. So I don't like this rule. I absolutely hate it. If we've got past half distance and the red flag comes out for rain, that's it. It's done. If it's a crash, that's fine. Let's clean it up from the last few laps because that doesn't take as long. if there is rain, where we're going to have to get the jet dryers out, we're going to lose an hour and a half to do 4 laps. No, that's so stupid. It is mind-bogglingly stupid. The race is over. Just end it. I absolutely hate it. Brit dislikes how NASCAR works. No, Brit dislikes how his sleep gets ruined when we have 4 laps left and the red flag comes out. We're there for 19, for an hour and a half. Yeah, hang on a minute. It was 18 minutes. The Xfinity wasn't 18 minutes.
It was,
that took long.
45-minute wait for the rain clear up on Sunday. And it was about the same in Dover. Yeah,
and Dover was, it's just like, just get rid of it. It's not the Brickyard 363. If you can make it to 100, make it 400.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Fair point. But if there's a crash, then yes. But if it is weather, then you really have to look and think, is it worth running the last few laps when the weather's in? That's
talking of weather, and before we talk about weather, something's happened over there. I'm pointing. You can't quite. Something's happened over there. We'll come back to it in a minute. But talking of weather, Spa, Sunday afternoon, I was fairly fortunate that it was my mum's birthday meal and I wasn't sat in front of the telly going, come on, get on with it.
Oh, I know, don't.
Following along on Twitter while in the restaurant going, really? They still haven't started?
As Joe was in the chat watching, he saw how much we had to fill. Poor Jake Sanson, he nearly collapsed at the end of the IndyCar because he'd done so much.
That was my big knock, was the F1 race. Like, I get it, safety is a number one priority, and we want to see the drivers have a safe race. But at the same time, it's like, you guys have to wet tires. I get it, visibility is a little bit of a challenge. I'm not a fan of how we've been seeing lately where we get some rain in Silverstone. Okay, we need the safety car. We got drops at Spa, Belgium. We're going to wait till it's just about drying. Those intermediate tires are turning to slicks right in front of us. I just say, I think it's getting to a point, it's like, okay, should we really be discussing they could drive in any conditions, or are we going to mostly move towards we are not racing in the rain that much? The other knot I would say too, probably easily I know was our top story, Austin Hill's move. That was just a dumb garbage move. It's just, you deserve to be on the sideline. And then race control at Laguna Seca.
No, it's happened. It's over there, Joe. That's what I was pointing at. It's happened. Quick, put the yellow out. We have to wait 5 minutes to get to it, but it's happened over there.
We got to wait.
What a disaster that was.
And even when Ryan's VK went out, pretty sure we were all under the understanding if a situation occurred during green flag pit stops, the drivers and the team said, we want that caution. And here we are. We waited a lap and a half to make sure Palou, I believe it was Award, and Newgarden all made their pit stops without being the... Can't help but think, it's like, okay, what if that third driver was not there? It was just Alex Palou. Caution comes out. You got a different race. Alex Palou would not dominate that race. It would have been wide open for anybody else. It was just race control, IndyCar. What's going on?
So that's the thing we've been asking all weekend across every series.
That the IndyCar, let's hang around here because we've got perhaps a yellow while we're in a green flag pit stop cycle. Tough.
Safety car means safety
something
car.
on the track that needs being dealt with. Throw the yellow.
I think NASCAR do it all the time.
You'll have more with different winners. You'll have more interest. You'll have more intrigue. You'll have people actually watching the thing. But they just decide that they want the same to win if they've got a chance of winning. It seems like, and this is another one of the reasons why I've kind of switched off from IndyCar this year, because it's just a bit of a disaster.
So have I. I've been prioritizing the Cup Series more than I have the IndyCar because it's just the same old, same old. And I think IndyCar really is struggling at the moment, as we've discussed many times on this show. They're in a freefall, and Fox can spin it however they like. They are losing ratings. They are losing just the general respect. And I know it's just not the boost. even the 500 isn't safer. It's in a really bad place right now. And just to touch back on the race control aspect of things as well, and throwing back to Spa, the F1 race, we've got these new wet tyres this year which don't require the tyre blankets, which means when you put them on, they're cold. And when you put the intermediates on, they're preheated to 60 degrees. Slicks are preheated to 70. So do you start the race behind the safety car with stone cold wet tyres, or nice 60-degree intermediate tyres, which might be a bit dangerous, but if we put the inters on, we're not going to go green until it's intermediate anyway. We're in this stupid lull period. It's why I think, by the way, this is the first time we actually had a rolling start to a Grand Prix since 2016 in Belgium, that a race has actually started with a rolling start. We've had formation laps ticking down laps, but we've always had the 5 lights. Yeah. This is the first time since 2016 we haven't had that. And they said, it's because one side of the grid wasn't as dry as the other side of the grid. Okay, but isn't that the same at every other circuit you race at where you've had standing starts? It was rubbish.
A lot of the other circuits don't have the grooves cut into the racetrack like Spa does to help the water drain away on the grid hatchings. Yeah,
it was fine. When we went back to green, it was very easily dry tyres within 5 laps. My opinion is we should have done more than half a lap behind the safety car before they decided to red flag. 2, we should have started on the full wet tyres. 3, I say we should have done 3 laps, then a standing start, and then everyone's on wet tyres, and then it's up to them if they want to box for inters or wait for it to go to slicks. We have no strategy. And I said it in the broadcast, I'm saying it now, it's a direct result of the fact is that inside the FIA race control right now, you have inexperienced people running around, desperate not to make mistakes, to not be fired by Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Because if you make one decision he doesn't like, you're out. It's very much a dictatorship right now, and we have the wrong people in control of Formula One's race control. Niels Wittich, who I thought was a stunning race director, wouldn't have let that happen. So it's ridiculous.
The going off under the safety car when the race should have started is just nonsense, and all it does is start the clock. And then
the clock didn't even start.
Well, yeah.
Because the red flag came out.
The confusion of going back out under the safety car when they did start, and then that was lap 1 when we'd already gone round once. So comical stuff.
Surprisingly, we didn't tick a lap down. It was still 44 laps.
44. So, we didn't lose a lap either. So who knows? If you've ever felt at your lowest ebb, the lowest of the low, completely, you think it is pointless me being here, remember, Pirelli make an extreme wet tyre for Formula One.
I don't think it's been used this year.
It hasn't.
I'm trying to wrap my brains. It hasn't. Not even in Australia.
I feel like someone may have thrown one on in Oz. I think I'm pretty certain I've seen the blue W on the timing tower at some stage this year, but maybe I'm thinking of the end of last year.
I'm Googling.
But yeah, they need to do something. Josh T continues his rant against Josh B by saying NASCAR started 20 minutes before it was meant to. Yes, they did. They sped up the pre-race show. So you finished at the same time you would have with no weather, and it was started the scheduled time. Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, we very not got caught out by that because nobody told us. They just did it.
We did as well. Yeah. Hang on a minute. The pace car just left pit lane.
Same thing. We were like, run. We missed Cookie Monster. That's my ultimate knot this week. We missed Cookie Monster.
What I don't get, Cookie Monster, Grand Marshal. When you hear Grand Marshal, that's traditionally the person that drivers start your engines. I don't know why, but driver to your cars, it's not the famous words we anticipate from the Grand Marshal.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah.
And then we had, I think that's somebody from PPG, the title sponsor, driver starts your engines, and it's like, come on. I mean, I just don't get that move.
And also,
I was expecting me want racing
flag as well. So the race has never officially finished because Cookie Monster did the checkered flag in the press conference.
So Bubba Wallace is not the winner. That's NASCAR's lawyer suit right there. Bubba Wallace hasn't won. The flag's got eaten. There we go. Let's quickly touch on that before we end the show, because
I've got one more, but go on.
Oh, you go first, because
mine's completely separate from anything else. So
okay. What do NASCAR do now? This is not, by the way, because NASCAR are sort of stuck because 2311 has won as an open team. What do? This doesn't help the lawsuit at all.
Well, we're going to find out on December the 4th or whatever it was that Denny said the date was of the thing. The truth will come out. Absolute rubbish.
I'm looking forward to it. I expect a special show for that one, because that's just just before, just after we go for Christmas break. I can't remember.
Just before.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, my going out of the show knot is a personal knot, and will actually be a knot for all of us. And I'm kind of glad Joe's here for this, because he kind of is involved with this. We talked about going to the European Le Mans Series at Silverstone in September. Silly sod here has booked tickets to a gig in London on the Saturday night, but it is that artist's only gig in the UK. I am going to it. You can't stop me. I'm sorry, but I won't be at Silverstone. So we talked about being at Silverstone for ELMS. It's not going to happen now. Boo hiss.
To be fair, that's decent. Cool. I'll see if I can get there.
I'll be raving it up in London on the Saturday.
Well, we'll just have to go to WEC next year, won't we?
Well, perhaps.
Yeah,
when that definitely. Well, they've been talking about it again. It's not a race. It's John Summit. If anyone knows who John Summit is, Chicago DJ. He's at the O2. If WEC doesn't come back, and they've been talking about it again fairly recently, that it's going to get put back on the calendar, and pre-Le Mans as well. So it'll be in spring.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Sort of probably between Qatar and Spa. Maybe they'll take Imola out and put Silverstone in.
Makes sense, actually. I'll go.
Yeah, absolutely be there for that without a shadow of a doubt. I've not missed a WEC race at Silverstone since 2007, so I will be there for that.
It's a cracking event. Okay, so taking a look at our upcoming schedule, you can stay tuned for the Grid Live pre-race, the standalone shows to preview the Formula One's Hungarian Grand Prix and NASCAR at Iowa. Sunday, our Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Iowa. Monday, Grid Encore is at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the ARCA and Xfinity races at Iowa, plus Formula 2 and Formula 3 at the Hungaroring. As well, by the way, remember the Hungaroring has been resurfaced. It's got some brand new pit and paddock complex, so it will look different and not like we're still behind the Iron Curtain. It has been thoroughly redone. And from a commentary standpoint as well, I've been reliably informed that the new commentary boxes have clean windows, because it's a famous fact that the windows in the commentary boxes have never been cleaned. They have since 1986. They've never been cleaned. That's a true fact for you. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,600 subscribers. We're now inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll know when we go on the air, and you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, and Matthew to invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to all of this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And consider buying a specific on-air personality of a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. So, for Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Joe Sammiego, our fearless leader, nice to have you back. I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.